I didn't see. All right. Good morning and welcome to the April 15th meeting of the Citizen Oversight Board. I'm excited to have a rich discussion today with Police Chief Paul Pazen. He's not yet on, right? I'm not seeing him. Okay. I'm sorry about all the background noise. There are 1,000 children in my house who are screaming. All right, so let's start with a little board business. Daniel, do you want to start with your items? I'm still pulling up our agenda.
Sure.
Right, go ahead.
Don't have a whole lot, but next week on Wednesday.
You want to approve the minutes first, though?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm still coming back from vacation, so who knows what I'm doing. Great. Let's start there. Has anyone had a chance to review the minutes, and are there any changes? And if not, may we approve them?
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Great. Okay, Stefan, any other things that you want to cover from a board business standpoint?
How was your vacation?
It was very nice, thank you. I was a little bit sick. My kiddo's sick. There's just phlegm everywhere in my house. So I came back both jet lagged and under the weather. So thank you for helping me remember what we're doing today.
I don't know. We're a team.
Awesome. Okay, we can go now to Daniel, your items if you have any.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that the board will be presenting our 2021 annual report to City Council's Safety Committee next week on Wednesday. And Julia and I will be there in person, and any other board members who want to either show up in person or you can also participate via Zoom. Please let me know and I can get that arranged.
Time?
It will be a 45-minute slot between 10:30 and noon. I don't have anything more specific than that.
Thank you.
I will send out a link for anyone who wants to observe. They live stream them, so I'll make sure the whole board has that live stream link just to observe.
Daniel, if you want, it might be worth sharing out the presentation that we've got developed. It's similar to what we shared at the quarterly public forum, but if board members have feedback on that, I think we submitted it, but we could always amend it for the day.
I will send that out after this meeting.
Cool, thank you for that. The only other thing I had on my list, is that all you've had, Daniel?
That monitor hiring and then April.
Okay. So I was going to just give a quick update on the monitor hiring process. So we are beginning negotiations with our selected recruiting firm. I think those should go fairly smoothly. We got a number of good proposals and had a selection committee, which was a subcommittee of the board, work through them. We are now working to finalize that, or not finalize, that's the wrong word, work through that with contracting city procurement. So I expect that we'll probably have 3 more weeks of this, but hoping to execute a contract beginning of May. With the selected firm, we'll then go into kind of listening sessions and discussions with various stakeholders. So the board itself, the OIM itself, our community partners, and then, various public safety participants if they'd like. That'll all get wrapped into, some cohesive guidance, and then position description and kind of marketing materials will get developed. We'll post. The selection committee will, or the screening committee will go through the first round. The board will go through the next round, and then we'll go through a similar public engagement approach that we did this last time. So, you know, I think we've got what we need out of this, and I'm excited about the firm that we are working to select. In terms of the screening committee, I have all of the members but one confirmed, and we'll work to confirm the last member today. So as soon as we've got the screening committee and the vendor selected, we'll then go to issue a press release so the public can have all of that information, and then, you know, move into a full process on that. So moving along, and I am learning some things about city procurement through this process, and maybe Daniel is too. So it's a good time. It's always a good time with procurement. We'll just say that. Okay, and then
Julia, I just wanted to mention that I wanted to compliment you. We were able to get the pricing reduced a little bit after, you know, Karen and I and Daniel conferred with you on it. And so I think all the more reason why we're excited about this, moving forward with this search firm.
Agree. Yep. And yeah, paying less for something is always better than paying more. So definitely. Okay. I'd like to turn it over to our vice chair, Dr. April Alexander, for a quick announcement.
Yeah, thank you. I know this is going to be hard for me on so many different levels, but at the end of February, I resigned from my position here at the University of Denver and accepted a new position at UNC Charlotte, which I will be starting in the fall.
Wow.
Again, it was a very, very tough decision in that I've made a lot of great connections here in Denver these last several years, including the Citizen Oversight Board, that I just have an immense amount of gratitude for everyone who supported me in coming onto this board, everybody here on the board for all of our conversations and just wanting to support community. I wanted to stay so I could continue this work and continue to support the board, because I think there was so much more I had to offer and wanted to offer you all in the community. But yeah, just an incredible opportunity. So I placed my resignation a few weeks ago to Julia, as well as the COB search committee. So yeah, I will be leaving at the end of July, and we are on the search for my replacement.
Well, I'll just start us off by saying thank you, April, to you for all of your service to the city, to the board. Your insight and guidance has been invaluable. And you know, your resignation comes with a lot of sadness for me. And I know other members of the board, you'll be truly missed. And, you know, Denver will be worse off for you not being here. So sorry to see you leave the metro area as well. Other board members, if you'd like to say something,
I'll say, you know, Dr. Alexander, this was not put to a vote. It was not moved. It wasn't seconded. It's out of order. Congratulations, Doc. Happy for you. Glad you're able. I'm sure it's something that'll help you in expanding the great work that you're already doing. So congratulations to you, and happy to hear that, quite honestly. Sad to see you go. Feel like I just learned a lot from you since being here. And I can still follow you on LinkedIn and all those posts. So
yes, I'll be doing some work remotely. I'm still based in BU for the next year or so. So you'll see me floating around.
Well, congratulations.
Dr. Alexander. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Steph.
You go ahead, Terrence.
Now, I'd like to say congratulations, and North Carolina's getting a good person. I had people down there. One rule of being in North Carolina, I'll have them look for you. Be aware of the queues in North Carolina. They're a different breed than up here, maybe a little bit more.
A loving group of people.
But the Stigmas are absolutely wonderful people in North Carolina. Also, you forgot the rule of leaving Denver. One of the privileges of being a former Speaker of the House, you get to decide who gets to leave and who gets to stay. And we decided you have to stay, but you know, you could break the law and leave if you want. Just know you're a fugitive from Colorado.
Well, April, I want to add to the chorus as well. And I got to say, it sounds like, between Al and Terrence, there's already 2 votes. So there's our 3 votes to make you stay. So
That's right.
I think we've got a little momentum going. And so before this meeting is over, well, you may have to change your plans. Anyway, I just want to say we're going to really miss you. You have added so much to the board, and it's just such a shame that we won't have you moving forward. But we know you'll be with us in spirit and thought, and wish you all the best.
Well, it's definitely unanimous. We don't want you to go. But best of luck.
My question is, what does our rule say about members maintaining their membership and working remotely?
I already asked, and yeah, it's not possible. so I've tried. So again, hopefully in some other context, I can still continue to collaborate and support and research for you all. So I will not forget you all by any means.
Well, congratulations, and I hate to see you go.
Thanks again. Well, I feel sad. So we have someone on as a board guest. I'm wondering if that is Chief Pazen.
It is. If you got more business, I can log off and log back on later if you want.
No, I think we're done with the sadness for today. So we'll transition over to our conversation with you. I'll just kick it off by saying we had a few questions from our last meeting that we wanted to talk through, and then provided you with just a couple of topics that we wanted to cover. And if you want to, start off by making comments, that's great. And then we'll dig into discussion with the board.
No comments to start off. We can jump on into the questions if you like.
Sure, sounds good.
So, and then please help me make sure I'm answering the right questions here. So follow up from January on the reason folks are leaving the police department and we got staffing issues. Is that it?
Let me just pull up the questions and have my 2 windows open, and then that will be fastest. So I think the first question that we had was about mutual aid agreements, and we were sort of wondering if we could get access to the text of those. I know there was a lot of work after the outcome of the George Floyd protest in reworking some of those agreements. So we were hoping that you'd be willing to share those documents just so we could take a look.
Okay. Yeah, I have them here. And did Daniel, did Matt Lund send them to you or not?
I have not received any documents from Matt.
Okay, we'll send you the
Okay,
mutual aid agreements.
cool. And then we can bookmark that for our next meeting with you. The next question was just, how's it going with staffing? We asked some specific questions about data, which if you have available, it was, what's the application rate for Academy? What's the attendance rate for Academy? And then, how are you looking from a turnover separation standpoint over the past 4 years? So, is the current state a continuation of the previous years? Is it different? Just talk to us a little bit about the context of, hiring for your organization.
So the term that comes to mind is horrible.
Okay.
And this is a new phenomenon. We did not have this issue in 2019 before the world was turned upside down. We were meeting our staffing challenges, meeting our work challenges that we had back at that time, and now we are not. And best case scenario, in 3 years we get there, but that's best case scenario. And we also have to plan for really what we're seeing. So last year, 2021, 145 officers left the Denver Police Department. Our average is, based on retirements, separations, termination, our average is 78. So about double the amount that historically have left each year, left in 2021. Obviously, some folks were near retirement and chose to leave. Others went to law enforcement agencies, both inside the state of Colorado as well as outside the state of Colorado. So we were already working from a deficiency in 2020 prior to the world turning upside down and the budget challenges that we faced. We had the budget to hire 97 officers that year, and with the economic downturn, those 97 officers didn't get hired. So 97 officers don't join the police department in 2020 as planned to meet those standard attrition numbers. And then you have 145 leave, which is about double. You got a big gap, and we certainly don't have people running to the hiring office to join the police department. And I think there's plenty of reasons for that. So at the same time, in 2021, our calls for service, so people dialing 911 because they need a police officer, that went up 4.2% against the 3-year baseline. So our response times are way up on emergency calls for service, shootings, stabbings, homicides, violent crimes in progress. These are generally 911 calls that are catted as 0s, 1s, and 2s. And we're above 14 minutes response times on those. That has a dramatic impact on life safety. Getting to emergency calls is in a timely fashion is critical. It also has an impact on solvability and apprehending individuals responsible for crime. So I appreciate you asking, but there's a lot of factors that got us into this spot, and it's not going to turn around in the next couple of weeks, months, or certainly not in 2022.
Do you feel like that the increase is part of the Great Resignation? A lot of employers are kind of dealing with that, or do you have you done exit interviews? Like, what are your sense about that attrition?
People are leaving for many reasons, and a lot though has to do with the lack of support. When you have 4 city council members, folks that actually have agency over you, that have said defund or abolish, or the cute way of saying decenter, that's certainly why would you want to work for a company, right? If this were the private sector and the board of directors were bashing employees, I'm sure that it would be very difficult to hire new employees or to retain current employees if that was the sentiment or what's been publicly talked about. So some of those areas don't help, and will continue. And obviously that goes far deeper than a handful of city council members or state legislators that have said the same thing. I have pleaded with the governor himself to step up and be public about this and say, encourage communities of color and encourage young people that want to make a difference in their community to join this noble profession, to be the change that you want to see. And his response was, well, maybe you can invite me to some of those national night out events. So we continue to see a lack of leadership in many places. And as violent crime continues to grow in Colorado, the metro area, in the city and county of Denver, it's likely to continue.
I have two things. And the first I'll say, I definitely agree that obviously goes without being said. I think that policing in any city is extremely important, and obviously losing large numbers of folks, and you're losing 100, pretty much 180, and you have less than half of that coming in is not good. Same time, I do see it as a part of a correction period in the profession itself. The profession itself has gone a long time without major overhaul, and I think some of that, to be quite honestly, is needed when you have folks who are culturally conditioned in a profession one way. Sometimes the only way to clear that out is for those folks to leave. So on one hand, I'm totally okay with some of those folks who are leaving. On the second piece of that is, since that's the case, what I haven't seen and what I'm curious about is if there is an appetite or a plan in place to be vocal and go out there in terms of recruiting, in terms of changing the narrative and letting folks know that there is space for them in the current police department. So maybe that's happening, I don't know, but that's my question.
Yes, that's happened. If you see every uniformed or every marked police car in Denver, there's a recruiting sticker that says, "Be the change that you want to see." Our representation, although is not perfect, it's pretty good. We're very focused. We were one of the first police departments to sign on to 30 by 30, and we're very focused on bringing more women into the police department. If you look at any of our recruiting videos, it's very focused on us trying to engage with marginalized communities of color to bring more representation to this department. So thanks for your question.
All right.
Other board member questions on this recruiting topic, retention topic?
Chief, do you think, and I know you just referenced, billboards and signs on buses. Are there things that you think that the department could do, that the city could do to assist you in getting out there with messaging about, being the change you want to be? I'm just wondering, sometimes, I'm with a law firm. I mean, we need help too on our PR and our marketing. What do you feel could be done, to enhance this situation, and to address this real issue that you're having with retention?
I think I've already expressed it, right? When the governor went through his alleged $113 million public safety budget, which $47 million of it have nothing to do with public safety. We asked him, I asked him directly, what I need from you costs exactly zero. Please help us by changing this narrative and get marginalized communities of color to take a look at this profession, so that way we can make the changes that are necessary from the inside. And I already told you what the response was. So we're doing all of the PR aspects of this. We used to be able, as a state, we used to have our pick up the litter almost. I mean, think about this for a second. Other than Dr. Alexander, who doesn't want to live in Colorado? Colorado is absolutely beautiful. And you have folks from across the country that wanted to flock to this gorgeous state. And we had to push back on a number of applicants. So now that's not the case. And it's, in fact, it's the exact opposite. For me to lose officers to North Dakota, to Florida, to Texas, to Wyoming, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. That is something that that has never happened and never could have anticipated happening in the past, where it used to be the exact opposite, where folks were flocking to this agency, to other agencies, because they love the outdoors, the lifestyle that Colorado brings, and we're not seeing that anymore.
Are there outreach? I hear you on the bully pulpit.
Yes.
I hear you on
Yes.
the bully pulpit. But
Yes, we advertise, we push out everywhere. We recruit across the country. We recruit locally. One of the areas that also hurt is, you know, like myself, somebody that graduated from Denver Public Schools, North High School, you used to have that conduit where you could encourage and support folks from our communities to then explore the cadet program, explore joining the police department afterward, and that's been severed as well. So sure, I mean, to suggest we're not doing robust outreach is incorrect. We're doing it we're LinkedIn. We've revamped all of Indeed and all the job posting sites that are out there, highlighting the good reasons to go to a larger department. Focused our effort, we have recruiters that are at community events trying to get folks coming. How do you overcome that narrative that continues, that perpetuates? So if you have answers to that, I'd love to hear it.
Another question, Chief, along the same lines, and one for the record, I did not want to leave. That was a really hard decision. I love it here in Colorado and Denver. But two, you said for some folks, they're still staying within state. Do you know what percentage of folks that might be who are just leaving DPD and getting jobs within the state?
So Parker Police, which again, I don't know if in the history of DPD we had folks that left Denver Police to go to Parker Police, but we had two officers, including a female of color that we most certainly wanted to keep. I mean, this is just shocking to me. We've lost officers to Douglas County as well. Trying to think of some of, to Sheridan. We lost two officers to Sheridan. I want to share how shocking that should be to anybody out there. Two Denver police officers left the Denver Police Department to join the Sheridan Police Department. Again, we share a border with Sheridan, and it is a department of 25 people. So, very lack of opportunity there. But I know their form of local government isn't, rallying against them. So you got to respect people's decisions to make their choice on what their careers are moving forward. So.
Sorry, Sheridan.
And that was, and we lost it. And one of the two officers was a Latino. So we're also, very cognizant of, who we're losing, and those are our challenges. We're in many categories, or many demographic breakdowns, we're spot on. Obviously, we want to increase the number of women. We're focused on 30 by 30, 30% of our sworn personnel by the year 2030. The national average is 12. We're approaching 16%, and we'll continue to make that we did a women's recruiting event, 2-day recruiting event right before the application period started. Day one, Saturday, we had 30 women in there. Day two, Sunday, it was 29 women. Some of those folks have continued through the application process, and hopefully they join. When we talk about getting people hired, we had to beg to get an extra class because of the deficiencies in staffing that we continue to face. The mayor and city council snuck in an October class of 40. It was budgeted for 40 officers. We had 19 that walked in the door. That class will graduate in about a week, and only 18 will walk across the stage. So then in December, a regularly scheduled class of 52, we had 32 show up, and we've already lost 3 or 4 out of that class. So we're spinning our wheels, and again, best case scenario, in maybe 3 years, we will be able to meet the workload challenges that we face.
So just a follow-up question, and then perhaps we can move on from this topic. I happen to work for the state in an agency that's not always the most popular agency. And, we had a lot of brand issues. We had, a number of legislative findings, audit findings, right? We had some interesting challenges coming from, both external perception, but also at the root, we had some real work to do to live up to the promise of our organization. And, I sort of want to ask a question, which is, there's a brand challenge, right? And there's, a strong conversation about the role of policing, and, there's an organization that can hold, retain, and attract people by demonstrating, the change that people are asking. So I'm interested, like there's the part which is like the environment's hard to recruit, but then there's the part which is the environment's hard to recruit because there are changes that the environment is asking from your organization. And so I wonder about like, what do you see as the role of change in helping to change that recruiting environment and attract, more talent to your organization?
So excellent question. And I don't know if the analogy would correlate the same, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm willing to look at this objectively, but law enforcement has been, for lack of a better term, vilified, right, wrong, or indifferent. To Al's point, maybe there was a need for change, and in many ways there are. But I can point out that if we're talking about a brand, it's being branded across the entire country. There was no Denver police officer in Minneapolis when George Floyd was murdered. There was no Denver police officer in Aurora when Elijah McClain was murdered. There was no Denver police officer in Louisville, Kentucky when Breonna Taylor was killed in that situation. So, and we have policies that would have prevented George Floyd from occurring back then. We don't arrest for fake $20 bills in this situation. That would not have occurred. We banned chokeholds long before the death in Aurora. We don't use no-knock warrants out there, but it doesn't matter. The folks, just paint with a broad brush, and it's law enforcement in general. And we certainly have our challenges, but we have made significant improvements in Denver, and that in many ways that falls on deaf ears. There's no answer other than abolish the police, defund the police, have no police, don't arrest people for crimes in the future. And for some folks, there is no answer other than extinction, so canceling. So you tell me. It's definitely not the same.
Yeah. Well, perhaps let's transition then to the other questions that we wanted to talk about today, and wanted to give you the opportunity then to comment on the lawsuit that was just finalized against the DPD for $14 million. So, how is your agency dealing with that? And, is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, we don't comment on pending litigation, and my understanding there's an appeal that will be coming.
Any other? Go ahead.
Chief, you do realize that that has an impact on the mentality of folks in the city who are looking at the police department and the lack of accountability that occurred with regard to those protests, and the fact that there are still lawsuits out there being filed still. So, I mean, my question is, do you acknowledge that that occurrence has had an impact on your perception in the public?
So well aware of the issues that were highlighted here. There are certainly areas for improvement. We agreed to and implemented all of the monitors' recommendations, and any city that had violent protests, I would love to say, or I would love to see which city did it right. If we're talking about the very progressive city, Seattle, that had arguably some of the worst riots in WTO, they should have learned from those aspects. But if we talk about Seattle Police Department's response to this, a couple of people were killed while protesting on the highway and struck by a vehicle. They gave up a police station. There was autonomous zones. A couple of people were killed in the autonomous zone over there. So love to hear how they did it right. Look at Washington, DC. They got protests all day, every day, just based on the nature of government. If you look at some of the responses there, hard to say they did it perfect. Then you start looking at bigger cities, the big city in the Midwest with 10,000 cops. They know what they're doing, right? They do this all the time. The headlines there, the reports there, exactly the same here. Maybe we need to look at LA. They lived through several flashpoints in the past. They've got to get it. They've got to have it figured out. They got thousands of cops over there. Exact same headlines, exact same issues. NYPD, they have teams that are dedicated to do just this. I wonder how they did. Headlines, reports, exactly the same. At what point do we say that these individuals that engage in violent behavior make this very difficult? And there's, to sit here and blame it on law enforcement across the country, I don't know. We certainly have areas to improve. We have made those changes. We'll continue to make those changes and look to improve with training and policy moving forward. And that's the answer.
Is there a national push to gather those in leadership within police departments to talk about and develop some training that would assist leadership in the crises that such as the one that we encountered with the protests?
So there's not like a formal group. Many police departments are part of PERF, Police Executive Research Forum. They have shared some areas that we can all learn from, and we are looking at that and implementing those strategies as well. Many of which they had nine strategies, and many of which we were already doing or have worked to improve. So, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay. And that those are PERF.
Correct.
Okay.
So perhaps another question is just, can you highlight for us sort of where you are in making progress against the recommendations that OIM made as a result of the George Floyd protests and the DPD response to that? There were a number of recommendations, and in our annual report, we encouraged your department to continue to implement, but I've lost track, at least personally, on, what's where in terms of that list. So do you want to talk through that at all?
My understanding is we have implemented every one of them. And I don't believe there are any outstanding, and we did that, months ago, a year ago. I'm not sure.
Okay, any other questions from board members on that? The follow-up that I have actually is there were, a number of investigations and disciplinary actions, et cetera, related to that. So how are you progressing through all of those?
Again, we've continued to work through those cases. We're down to 12 cases total. Some of those are at conduct review. Some of those have been forwarded to OIM. That's the basic part of it. And I think I brought this up before. Every case is reviewed by the Denver District Attorney's Office for criminal charges, and some of the cases, they rightfully so took a long time to review to see if criminal charges were appropriate. So I'm not criticizing them by any means. I think the cases need to be looked at thoroughly. And if there were criminal charges in this, then they needed to make that decision based on the examination of the facts and doing that thorough review. So I actually commend them for doing a very thorough review. And I'm not going to criticize them because it took a lot of time, but part of the reason why some of these cases, why we still have 12 cases left, is that they did a very thorough review. So, and that's the right thing to do overall. So we're whittling through those. Some of those are back and forth in the process, and that's where we are.
Okay, thank you. And can you remind me of what was the total number of cases? It's 12 of...
I think it was 122 or something like that.
Okay, great, that's helpful. Thank you. Any other board member questions on that topic? Okay, the next question we had for you was on your perspective on the positives and negatives of including audio in body-worn camera buffer recordings. So, we've recently learned that, the technology allows for capturing audio before a video is initiated. And in some cases, that audio could be really valuable in the conversation about what happened. There are pros and cons to doing that, and just wondered, did you guys talk about that in implementing your body-worn camera policy, and sort of what are the trade-offs of that decision?
So first, let me give credit to Chief White, because again, this was an area where Denver led. We were one of the first major cities to roll out as comprehensive of a body-worn camera program as there were anywhere in the country. I wasn't in this position. I wasn't in the body cam implementation process. I was busy running a district in Northwest Denver, and there were other people assigned to these tasks. Since you've asked the question, we did the research. This is something that they reviewed. It was part of some of the privacy concerns that folks might have, and they did the exact same thing, weighing the pros and cons of doing this. Again, body cam, having the turn on and turn off aspect of it. I think I would hope that Greg or the previous monitor would agree that for the most part, we do a very good job of turning those on at the right time in there. This 30-minute or 30-second, 45-second buffering that takes place on this. We took all of this into consideration, looking at the positives and negatives now that you've brought it up. And there's some challenges. You don't wear the body, or you don't turn on body cams in hospital settings. There's bathroom or restroom issues that you'd have to be concerned with, right? I mean, if it is rewinding and you're coming out of this situation, then that could be very problematic as well. So we'll continue to evaluate it and talk about it there. I'm give Chief White credit. They did look at this issue, and Chief White was a leader across the country in getting body cams in Denver as early adopters compared to the rest of the country. So I don't know if I really answered the question other than to say that I'm glad that it's being brought up, and it needs to be kind of thought through the positives and negatives again, and try to get it figured out.
Cool. Yeah, open to the continued discussion on that. The technology continues to advance, and there are always ongoing conversations to have about how you use it. So thanks for that. Are there board member questions on other topics?
That, Julia, I don't know if you wanted to, that last question about with COVID receding, about board members. I didn't know if you wanted to get into that, or if you. So Chief, we were interested in learning more about about training. It's important to, we want to be educated as well in terms of, the day-to-day, work of officers. And so with COVID receding, we wanted to discuss with you the possibility of board members sitting in on, the portions of academy training or participating in ride-alongs and things like that. I mean, we feel that that's important to our oversight role to have a much better and comprehensive understanding of the training and workings of law enforcement. Which, are you amenable to that? I mean, Terrence is one of a board member who is, a part-time law enforcement officer. The rest of us don't have that training, although I'm a former prosecutor. But what's your view on that?
So let me ask Al to kind of weigh in here, right? And Al came out to the academy about a year ago, and we also Al brought a couple of folks with him as well. Quincy, somebody that I think is a great leader in our community, definitely heavily involved in many of these at the forefront of many of these issues that we're talking about right now. And Al and Quincy both, hey, can I talk to the recruits by myself? And I had to hold my breath, but I think it was a positive experience, right, Al?
I agree. And thank you for that. That's one thing that Chief has been really receptive to and really open. And I have to say, he did that without vetting what we're going to say. And that was kind of a on the spot thing. And I think it went really well with the recruits, hopefully, and as well as the folks that I invited, which I invited the former defense attorney, actually, in the city for 50 years. He was a criminal defense attorney in the city, and it was very eye-opening for him, having done 50 years criminal defense and sitting on the other side. So that type of training, Chief has been very receptive to, and I think it just took a phone call from me to do that. And it's probably something that we should just be more proactive on ourselves.
So it's a lot of words just to say, of course, we would be willing to, look at this. I mean, to Terrence has got a lot of experience as well. So, maybe there's ways that even Terrence could be part of it to do some explanations of, well, why are they doing this or why are they doing that type of approach? Who knows? But this is not, I'm sorry, Terrence, I didn't mean to volunteer you to work or extra work.
If you sign an MOA with me, I can maybe get reimbursed for it. A mutual aid agreement of some sort. I know, but I'm happy to do it. I'm a big proponent of members of the community getting a more intimate understanding of law enforcement and how it works. And I frequently provide commentary, unofficial commentary to my friends when various videos come out. Sometimes I say it's a justifiable thing, and other times I'm like, this was bad. But I think they appreciate the fact that, I'm in law enforcement, but I'm also critical at the same time. I'm a critical friend, which more of us need in our world, but that's another conversation altogether. So I'm happy to help in whatever way I can, as long as April stays. And I'm announcing our GoFundMe page to match whatever North Carolina put up there.
Start raising. Hopefully it's a rich offer she's got. Okay, other questions for Chief Pazen?
All right.
I just have one more. So you may be aware, hopefully you're aware, that EDOS Saldate approved the COB getting access to IA Pro for the DPD. I know that has gotten stalled a little bit. And so just wanted to check in with you on if you know why, or what we might do to help facilitate that being completed.
Yeah, I just learned about this myself. So
Okay.
I know Mary Delacqui will inform me just recently. So I need to find out what's going on. And I don't know.
Okay.
I thought it was Daniel was getting access to this.
That's right. Yeah, not all the board members.
Yeah, and obviously, yeah. So I don't know where it was. I wasn't part of the conversation. So.
Okay, we'll follow up with you on that just to make sure that gets done. All right, well, if there aren't any other board member questions for the chief, we'll let you go. Really appreciate your time today, and thank you for sharing the struggles that you're having as an agency. And certainly it can be very stressful to maintain a workforce that's understaffed and in conditions that are increasing in demand. So appreciate that is a very challenging position for you to be in.
Well, I think at some point we as a community need to figure this stuff out, because the folks that are being harmed by this are our community members, and crime is not stabilizing. It's continuing to skyrocket. This is not a pandemic thing that once we take masks off, everything's going to be fine. Once we get folks now on their fourth shot, everything's going to be fine. That's not the case. It continues to increase. We're at 24 homicides for the year. I never thought I would utter those numbers this in the springtime, summer, June, July, August, September. Those are the months that we generally see increases, and it is the community that suffers when you don't have effective public safety, and part of it is having the resources. I'm proud of the efforts that this police department has had. As a matter of fact, in a week, albeit Harvard talking about our enhanced response that includes co-responder STAR program, outreach case coordinators, and then the aid center here. Those things are great. They get better outcomes for individuals that are in crisis, but they're not crime prevention. They're not crime reduction. And unfortunately, too many folks have conflated STAR and other programs like that as some sort of magic pill that solves all of these issues. And the reality is, if we had 1,000 STAR vans out there today, it wouldn't have prevented a single one of the murders, the shootings that are up 70% against the 3-year baseline, 70%, and 2 of those 3 years are super high numbers as well. Our murders almost 50% above the 3-year baseline. Auto theft in Colorado, worst state in the country. Property crimes, 3rd worst state in the country. Recidivism rates, 4th worst in the country. We used to be half or close to half the murder rate of the country, and again, rate per 100,000 residents. And same with auto theft, same with property crime, same with all of these that I'm talking about. This isn't a population boom and we're just counting raw numbers. This is per 100,000 residents. We used to be nearly half the national average, and we cannot say that anymore. We're exceeding that. Last year, 2021, most murders since we've been counting and going way back to 1979. So it's our community that's suffering here, and this stuff needs to get figured out quickly, because it needs to be a balanced approach, and in many aspects, I think we are out of balance.
Thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate it. Interim Monitor Crittenden, I will turn it over to you. Do you have topics you'd like to cover in our public meeting?
No, I think the things that they have to do with pending cases and draft policies. So stuff that has to be discussed in executive session.
Okay. Go ahead.
Julia, I won't be able to make executive session. I have a class I have to take.
Okay. No problem. Is it taught by Dr. April Alexander?
No, it would require me to go to North Carolina, and I'm not sure I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Don't you feel the love, April?
Hopefully.
I do.
Shower of affection. All right. Well, with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session in order to discuss these pending cases and matters related to draft policies. Can I have a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes, and we will adjourn to executive session. Thank you so much, and good day, all of our participants.